Final thoughts from Eric Adams, the 110th mayor of the city of New York, from the Blue Room in City Hall. The Point starts right now. So, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask you this. Is there a difference between Eric Adams, the mayor, and Eric Adams, the man?
That's a great question. And I would like to believe it's not. And I think that's almost why I get in, hot water sometimes. Because what you see is what you get. The famous quotes, let your haters be your waiters, you have to inspect what you expect. You're seeing Eric. If the lights are off and I'm by myself, it's the same person. And I think that, people are tired of fake folks. They want authentic people who can laugh at themselves, who is perfectly imperfect, and just dedicated, and that's who I am.
But you project a confidence, a swagger, as you talked about when you first became mayor. But when you're alone at night, is there any insecurity that shows up, any swagger leave you, any self-doubt?
Not self-doubt. You want to do what's right because so much is counting on you. If I didn't manage those 237,000 migrants and asylum seekers, their lives will be impacted. If I don't improve education, you know what I say, if you don't educate, you incarcerate. I had to get it right. If I didn't take those 25,000 guns off the street, those are real victims. And so you want to get it right. And I don't think there has been a mayor in history, probably back to LaGuardia, that spent so much time on the ground. I'm in that hospital when that person is a victim of a shooting. I'm there when I had spent the night in an encampment. So I feel the pains of everyday New Yorkers.
But when you're alone at night in your bed, going over whatever happened that day, do you ever second guess yourself? Do you ever feel like I could have done it differently? I could have done it better. And does the swagger leave you as you say, maybe I should have done something different?
Without a doubt. And, every night, I have a routine every night and every morning. Every night, after my prayers, I write in my journal, I reflect on what could I have done differently. I do my breathing exercises. Then before going to sleep, I just reflect on what could I have done differently. And there have been many days where I said that, you know what, you could have handled that differently. You could have probably got a better outcome. But when you are in that ring and the blows are coming at you, you could be a good corner man and say, hey, next time duck. But you're in that ring. And I've been in the ring for 4 years. And the most that I'm impressed and thankful for is that in spite of what was thrown at us, no one can lie that we moved the city forward. And even when I was indicted with that lawfare, look at every quarter. Every quarter, we built more housing. Every quarter, we brought down crime. Every quarter, we decreased unemployment. You did not see me stop, no matter what noise. I moved the city forward.
So what was the best day for you, and then what was the worst day for you?
Well, I had
best day.
I had many great days. Probably one of the best days is when I really started to see we were making real inroads in public safety. That I was really excited about.
How long into your term was that?
Probably a year and a half. I was starting to say, hey, we got this. We were taking off guns off the street. The CRT unit was doing an amazing job. And I started to see the numbers come in. I said, you know what, I ran on public safety and we got it. The worst day by far is when I was indicted due to this lawfare. I mean, many
Did that surprise you that you got indicted?
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, many people never read the indictment and what I was charged with, things that elected officials do every day. I called the fire department and asked them to do a building inspection. And Marcia, when you looked at the text message, it said, if you can't, let me know and I'll manage their expectation. And they turned that into he pressured them. They pieced together communication.
So why do you think you became a target?
I think a number of reasons. You know, there were, you know, these allegations come up on elected officials all the time. And I thought that there was a lot of anger around my posture and position about the migrants and asylum seekers. This was heard in New York. We spent over $8 billion, and we still have not seen the fallout of that money. And I think that there were people in that administration who got angry, and this was a way of doing the same thing that happened to Brian Benjamin, because people forget about that. His career was destroyed because of an indictment that was eventually dismissed. And now we're learning more and more when we look at what was happening under the Biden Justice Department. President Biden said, my Justice Department has become too politicized.
But he let him do it.
I'm sorry?
But he let the Justice Department do it.
I concur with you 100%. And it's something like that, it destroys your life, your family life. And, you know, it was just really unfortunate.
Did it ever make you cry?
I'm sorry?
Did it ever make you cry when you thought about it?
No. It made me angry. And I believe my faith is strong. You look at the press conference that I had in the Rotunda the day after, a few days after the indictment, and I stated clearly, my faith in God is stronger today than it has ever been.
I'm wondering, is there anybody in your personal life that ever says no to you? And when was the last time you took their advice?
Does anyone say no to me?
Does anybody say no to you?
Are you kidding me? All the time.
Well, tell me about it. Who says no to you?
You know, what's interesting.
Do you listen?
Yes. You don't surround yourself with yes people. You surround yourself with people who love you and are going to give you good, solid advice. And there are many days you will look at the advice that comes from my team that I say, okay, that makes sense. We're going to move in another direction. But I never get away from the fact that the people of the city elected me. And that's the advice I want to give to the incoming mayor. He was elected. There are many people around you who want to carry out their agenda, but the people elected me to be the mayor, and after I hear the good advice, I make the determination on what direction I'm going to go in.
So I guess the question is this. You know, you were the one who had to deal with the migrants coming here. And for you, the worry was, am I going to have people sleeping on the street because there's no place for them?
Yes.
But now it's gone to a whole other level where people are being arrested merely for showing up to their court hearings. I wonder how you relate to that and whether you think it's gone too far.
Well, I was always clear on who I believe should be arrested, those who were violent offenders that will come to our country and violate the privilege of being in America. When they commit a crime after they serve their time, they should be deported. They should not be allowed to stay here. I don't think a person should be arrested if they go to a court following the process. I made that clear over and over again. And when you look at the national immigration leaders, they would tell you no one has done more for the migrants and asylum seekers in the country than what we have.
So when New Yorkers remember you, what one thing would they like to you like them to remember about you?
Compassion. You know, the city failed my mom. You know, you heard me say it over and over again. It failed her. It failed my sister, who gave up her childhood raising her 5 siblings while mommy was doing 3 jobs. I really was committed not to have a city fail New Yorkers and the Dorothy Mae Adams of different communities and different organizations. I want them to remember me of that. That's exactly what my policies were focused on.
So what would disappoint you the most if they remembered you for?
Would disappoint?
In other words, would you be disappointed if they remembered you for fill in the blank?
Well, you know, I think that when I go to town hall meetings and gatherings and I share what I have done as the mayor and this administration, and I hear people say over and over again, wow, we didn't know that. And I think that if I hear people, I did a show the other day and someone called on and said that, you know, your administration was corrupt, and that was just
that
not,
would hurt you.
Huh? Yes, it does, because that's not who we were. We were the administration that stayed up during COVID. We were the administration that met buses when migrants and asylum seekers came here, that broke the streets to bring down crime, that built more houses than any other mayor. Do you know that I zoned this city to build 433,000 units? That's more than 12 years of Michael Bloomberg, 8 years of de Blasio combined. I broke the records for unemployment, for jobs in the city 12 times, And so when you have all that you've done being overshadowed by something that should have never happened to you, does it hurt? Yes. But I know history is going to be kind to me.
We're going to have to leave it right there for now, but we will be right back. We're back with Mayor Eric Adams. I'd like to ask you about the rise of anti-Semitism. I know that you've traveled extensively in Israel and you feel it personally. Why do you think we're at this position where there's so much hate? And are you going to continue to talk about it once you leave office?
Yeah, I think the hate was always there. I believe social media allowed it to become more pervasive. And we've normalized anti-Semitism, and we use cute phrases like, I'm not against Jews, I just don't believe Israel should exist as a Jewish state. That is just such a level of hypocrisy. The Vatican is is a Catholic country. I've traveled across the globe. I've been to Saudi Arabia, I've been to Oman, I've been to Jordan. These are Muslim countries. And so when you state that you don't believe Israel should exist as a Jewish state, then don't go to Tibet and see the Buddhist monks.
So how do you feel when the present mayor-elect says he will not agree that Israel should be a Jewish state? How do you react to the person who's going to replace you saying that?
Well, I think people need to ask the tough questions, particularly journalists, and say that, do you believe that it shouldn't be because they are Jews, or do you believe no country should be a country that is predominantly a particular religion? Then you have to talk about those Muslim countries, those Buddhist countries.
Does this add to anti-Semitism?
I'm sorry?
Does that add to anti-Semitism?
I think it does. I think we've normalized anti-Semitism, and we've normalized hating Jewish people. We've normalized that. And just as we've normalized in history other groups. Remember, we've normalized hating blacks. We normalized hating Chinese. We had laws to stop Chinese immigration.
How do we stop it?
Yes, we can.
How?
And that's part of what I want to do when I get out of office. I want to commit myself to do the things that we did with breaking bread, building bonds. I believe the vast number of New Yorkers and Americans believe that we need each other, and we have to remind ourselves of that.
So what is Eric Adams going to do?
We're going to announce several initiatives that we're going to do that's going to be focusing on, in general, dealing with hate, but specifically to deal with the increase in anti-Semitism and that you're seeing become so pervasive, particularly around young people. Young people have caught on to this because it has become a bumper stick, a slogan. They don't even know the full depth of why some of the commentary that's being made is wrong, and it's inaccurate, and it's not even valid information. We need to re-educate, and we need to reclaim our young people.
What's the next chapter for Eric Adams?
Well, I'm excited. A couple of months ago, I talked about, one dream job that was coming towards me. I now have 4.
Oh, come on, tell me all 4.
It's going to be a combination. I want to go back to school. I miss school so much, and I want to write a book, and I want to, just spend some time with the family. But I really, my love is travel, has always been, and I have some excellent opportunities.
You're writing a travel book, a mystery novel? What are you writing?
I did a food book, I want to finish my term as mayor, and then we're going to roll out some of the things that we're going to do. But we're going to improve cities. We want to continue to assist improving this city, and we're going to improve countries.
So here's the next question. How optimistic are you about the city's future?
I'm cautiously optimistic. If the incoming mayor allows the philosophies that's associated with the Democratic Socialists of America, which many people don't realize, we're going to have a problem. You can't decriminalize prostitution after we talk young people to stop selling their bodies and fight against sex trafficking.
So how can you be optimistic when you're saying all these things?
Well, because, you know, when you become mayor, you stop living what you basically ran on because it sounded great. Now you're in the office, and you now have to say, okay, what does it mean to allow people to sleep on the streets again? What does that really mean?
People are not going to like that.
I'm sorry?
The New Yorkers are not going to like that.
Without a doubt, they're not. And what does it mean to empty out Rikers Island, 3,000 dangerous inmates, and go back to the communities that they preyed on? What does that really mean? What does it mean disbanding SRG, the organization that went into the unit that went into 345 Park Avenue to make sure that that shooter was apprehended? So when you become the man, you sit in the seat, idealism collides with realism. You have to make real choices.
So are you saying that this is going to change Zohran Mamdani?
No, I'm saying I am hoping that once he becomes mayor, he can still follow the things that are important to him, but he has to understand how it impacts communities. You can't run every millionaire out of the city. That's 51% of our tax base. You can't tax communities based on their ethnicity. That's what we're fighting now, what's happening to African American and Asian and Spanish-speaking communities. So I'm hoping when you get in the seat, you say, wait a minute, there are things you must do to run a city this complex. And that is what I'm hoping. That's why I say I'm cautiously optimistic.
When you took the oath of office on December 31st, you had a picture of your mom. And your mom, you would call her Mommy, has been a recurring theme through the 4 years of your administration. How do you think she'd feel today, or the last day of your term? How would she evaluate it?
You know, during her last days, she was starting the beginning stages of Alzheimer's. And she was starting seeing things, and she would say this book is moving and things like that. And I remember going to the house and sitting down speaking with her and explaining what Alzheimer's is, what dementia is. And I said, this is what you're going to expect. And after the next day or so, you know, she called to thank me because she was a very rational woman. And she just inspired me. She was a third-grade educated woman, and she raised a mayor. What more? It doesn't matter if she raised a mayor for 1 term, 2 terms, 3 terms. She did it. And all those mommies out there that have babies that just want them to have the best, I'm hoping my mom is a symbol. Never give up on your child.
I'm wondering if you see yourself very quickly more as a servant of the city or a symbol of the city.
I'm sorry?
You see yourself more as a servant of the city or its chief symbol?
Symbol. I am a symbol of the city, perfectly imperfect. A young man that was dyslexic, a young man that was arrested, rejected, and got elected to be the mayor.
On that note, Mr. Mayor, we're going to have to leave it right there for now. But our conversation continues on our streaming channel, CBS News New York. Thank you for joining me. It's one of the weird things about us. We complain about waiting for the subway or bus, but news of a trendy restaurant or product drop, and wow, the line forms here. What exactly is worth the wait? New Yorkers are weighing in on your point. What's the last time you stood on a long line?
Probably pretty recently in Fairway Supermarket.
Not that recently.
Probably yesterday.
I mean, I was just in the Museum of Natural History.
Oh my goodness. I try to avoid lines. I really do.
We just stood in line for a car rental just now, and we were there for hours because we couldn't get a car because it was too expensive.
I can't remember the last time I stood in long line.
Really?
Yes.
You never wait for anything?
I'm at an age where I try not to wait for anything.
With you. Is there anything that's worth standing in line for an hour for?
Oh, God, no.
Yes. Like in the airport, going to your dream place.
Getting to a foreign country, even though standing in airport lines is horrible.
Probably not.
No, you wouldn't do it? Not even for a movie? to get an Xbox?
Well, if it's for free, then yeah.
Maybe something free.
Okay.
Yeah, but I wouldn't stand in a line for a long time to pay money to somewhere.
An amusement park.
I would do that for like VIP concert tickets, like if I could get like up front, but I would not do that for just a regular concert.
For an hour? Yeah, maybe to see a good concert.
You would stand in line for a concert?
Yes.
Who?
I just saw Dua Lipa, and she was worth standing in
worth
line.
it?
Yes,
Okay.
I didn't have to, but she was worth it.
Okay. Do you think that there's some people that like standing in lines?
In New York, it seems like it.
Yeah, for roller coasters.
No one likes standing in line.
Yeah, people stand in line for pop-up stores, for food. If something's really popular, they'll wait for it.
You know, this is New York. There's somebody who likes something that nobody else likes.
Some people do. Some people have a rich interior life and they can just, sit there and be at peace.
I think so. I think you can spark up a conversation if there's people around you, and I think that's the thing now. We don't really talk to each other that much, but
So standing in line is like a social thing.
it is. Yeah, it's a part of being a human being, I would say. We've been doing it forever.
How come there's so many long lines in New York City?
Because, it's New York City. Everybody wants to do the same thing.
The city's overpopulated.
I mean, it's a big city of 8 million people, so there's bound to be a lot of crowding everywhere.
Because of TikTok. People see things on TikTok, and they go crazy.
It's about posting that you were there at the thing, that you ate the thing or you went to the thing.
If you want a good example, those stupid checkout machines. So there's a longer line because it takes you longer to check yourself out than it does a professional checker who knows what to do when the thing says no.
Being born and raised here, that's just part of what it is. There's a lot of folks here, and that's the beauty of it.